Greetings, every pony! It is time to introduce the great and powerful Trixie! That's right, folks, it's time for Boast Busters. Without further ado, let's dive on in. We open on Spike encouraging Twilight as she performs a magic spell that gives him a bushy mustache. Spike exposits that this makes 25 tricks that Twilight's mastered and daydreams over Rarity a little before Twilight poofs it away. This makes me wonder, are magic tricks different from magic spells? Or are they just using the word trick in this episode to try and get the viewer to equate Twilight's magic with Trixie's? Either way, I'm curious as to what else is on the list. Too bad the equestrian written language is just squiggles.
No, see, you got it upside down now. Now, these little black squiggles are symbols called letters. Now, together, these letters form visual representations of words. Like, for example, let me see. Coconut. Coconut is a word.
After the opening credits, Spike and Twilight walk through Ponyville talking about things they should both already know, but they have to talk about it anyway to explain it to the audience.
I thought unicorns were only supposed to have a little magic that matches their special talents.
True, for ponies whose talents are for things like cooking or singing or math. But what if a unicorn's special talent is magic?
Like you, Twilight, and you know a ton of magic.
Spike starts gushing over Twilight, but before he gets too far, he gets hit by a couple low-flying objects.
Snips! Snails! What's going on?
Enter Snips and Snails, a couple of stereotypical colts who are keyed up because there's a new unicorn in town.
Yeah, they say that she's got more magical powers than any other unicorn ever!
Really?
Oh, no way! That honor goes to Twilight here.
They go to see this new unicorn and find that she's set up a stage. A crowd's already gathered and the rest of the gang are in attendance, as well as some pony Twilight should recognize, but it's too early in the canon for that.
Oh, come and witness the
You know, getting my reviewer show started late has a few advantages. The unicorn announces herself as
great and powerful Trixie!
then proceeds to puff up her reputation a bit.
Watch in awe as the great and powerful Trixie performs the most spectacular feats of magic ever witnessed by pony eyes!
Rarity is more than a little put off, and Spike's about to endorse Twilight again before he freezes up and rushes off.
Oh, hey, Rarity, mustache!
Say the word mustache. A mustache, a mustache. Now we both have said mustache.
Twilight approaches the others, apparently not understanding that they're upset over Trixie showing off, not her level of ability. Rarity states that just because some pony's good at something, that doesn't make her better than any pony else, and Twilight shrinks at this. Some might get upset at Twilight for missing the whole point of what they were saying, but consider her state of mind here. She's already feeling insecure about the fact that they're upset over a unicorn who appears to be incredibly talented. When Rarity says something like that, everything around it goes out the window. I've been in that kind of position. It's a very real character flaw, and one I applaud the writers for giving Twilight, since she doesn't know how these five will react to her abilities yet. Up on stage, Trixie's heard some of the murmurs in the crowd and puffs herself up a little more. Spike tries once more to intervene on Twilight's behalf, but she cuts him off again.
Just who does she think she is?
Yeah, since we all know that Twilight here is...
Spike, shh.
What? What's wrong?
You see the way they reacted to Trixie? I don't want anyone thinking I'm a show-off.
When Trixie sets off her fireworks, Rainbow's had enough.
So great and powerful, Trixie. What makes you think you're so awesome anyway? Why, only the great and powerful Trixie has magic strong enough to vanquish the dreaded Ursa Major!
Trixie tells a rather vague tale of banishing an Ursa Major from Hoofington back to the Everfree Forest, citing that as a proof of her power.
When all hope was lost, the ponies of Hoofington had no one to turn to, but the great and powerful Trixie stepped in, and with her awesome magic, vanquished the Ursa Major and sent it back to its cave, deep within the Everfree Forest.
I love how she tells it in lousy neon light form, too. Everything about this pony screams 2-bit magician to the audience, but considering the reactions of the crowd, it seems to imply that show ponies like Trixie are much less common in Equestria than they are on Earth. After all, here we know it's all an illusion and trickery, but we enjoy getting lost in suspension of disbelief. In Equestria, magic is a part of everyday life, so why wouldn't you believe this pony when she tells you how powerful she is?
Well, of course, it all makes perfect sense.
Even when we're shown Las Pegasus later on, it's filled with highly professional architecture, lighting, and advertising. Not one thing in the city says cheap, as some places in Las Vegas sometimes do, especially where amateur magicians are concerned. Ponies just aren't used to being lied to about one's abilities and accomplishments. Trixie is a rather irritating oddity in that way. Snips and Snails continue to proclaim Trixie's praises, while Spike is yet again shut down by Twilight when he tries to speak up for her.
And besides, Twilight...
I wonder what number that trick was. The crowd's still not convinced of Trixie's greatness, though the crickets seem to be singing her praises. So, Trixie issues a challenge.
Anything you can do, I can do better. Any takers? Anyone? Or is Trixie destined to be the greatest equine who has ever lived?
Okay, Trixie, I got one for you. Let's see who can be quiet the longest. If you're really the greatest pony in all the land, you'll be able to outlast me. Deal? No pony takes her up on her offer, and Spike continues to beg Twilight to put Trixie in her place. Twilight still refuses, but then of course Trixie singles out Twilight as a volunteer.
How about you? Well, how about it, Is there anything you can do that the great and powerful Trixie can't? Well, little hayseed. That's it.
Oh, no, wait, it was just a commercial break. She actually picked Applejack out as a volunteer. AJ is raring to go and pulls off some pretty impressive rope tricks. Trixie counters. Okay, that wasn't anything close to what AJ did, but whatever. It's Rainbow's turn next, and she makes a good show of her speed and weather manipulation abilities. Again, Trixie's counter is less than impressive.
I think I'm gonna be sick.
Of course, Trixie declares herself the winner, but why are the other ponies going along with it? She isn't replicating their moves at all, just twisting them. Literally, she twists AJ's rope to work against her and twists Rainbow again to work against her. When it comes time for Rarity to strut her stuff, Trixie's counter actually has a little bit of style to it, but again, it's really nothing compared to what Rarity does.
Afraid you'll get a hair out of place in that rat's nest you call a mane? Oh, it is on.
To be more than just a muscle.
A unicorn needs to have style. A unicorn's not a unicorn without grace and beauty. No! Green hair! Not green hair! Oh, such an awful color!
Well, I never!
Spike implores Twilight again to step up and show her abilities. This time, Trixie hears Twilight's response and goads her on personally, causing Twilight to run away, too frightened to do anything else. With that, Trixie declares herself the greatest to ever be.
Was there ever any doubt?
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
Later on, Trixie's primping by her wagon when Snips and Snails show up with a smoothie for her. She's naturally disgusted as Snails offers it to her with his butt. They beg her to tell more stories and are disappointed when she refuses. As they leave, they run into Spike, who confronts them over their hero worship.
Look, unless an Ursa Major comes waltzing up the street for Trixie to vanquish, I am not going to believe a word she says. And neither should you.
Spike tries to talk to Twilight once more over her refusal to face Trixie, only to have her claim her show of magic in defense of her friends would be exactly the same as Trixie's boasting. Spike tries to convince her otherwise, but she conjures a door just to slam it in his face.
I don't want to be seen as a bragger like Trixie.
But you're the best!
Please, Spike, I said no.
If that's the way you want to be, then fine.
An unknown amount of time later, Snips and Snails are wandering through a pitch-dark cave. Snails lights his horn so they can see the gigantic blue bear they've just woken up. And it's definitely not happy about the situation. The Colts run back into town calling for Trixie, barreling past Spike on the way, who immediately runs to get Twilight. The Colts wake Trixie, whose response to seeing the Ursa is more than a little understandable. Trixie starts trying to use her magic to fight the Ursa, but it's less than effective.
Piece of cake.
Twilight enters the scene as Trixie finally admits she was lying about her heroic feats, leaving Twilight to take care of the situation instead. She makes use of several tricks that she's already learned to create music, milk some cows, levitate the water tower and Ursa, and send them both back into the cave. This results in a rather impressive geyser of magical aura coming off her horn. Once the Ursa is safely returned to its cave, the others of the main six fawn over Twilight's ability.
Unbelievable! That was amazing! Heavens to Betsy! We knew you had ability, but not that much.
Twilight's surprised that they're reacting so positively, and they clarify why they were so irritated with Trixie while being impressed and proud of Twilight. Some find it hypocritical that the main six bash Trixie while hailing others like Twilight and Starlight for being proud of their magical abilities, but here's the thing, they would have been just fine with Trixie if she wasn't so loud and obnoxious about what she could do, especially with nothing to back herself up. Twilight and Starlight have more than enough to back up any claims or boasts they might make. Trixie, not so much. And on top of that, she never shuts up. Trixie is just annoying. Though I will admit she got better after befriending Starlight. She started to learn humility as well as actually expanding her abilities as a unicorn. I very much enjoyed seeing her and Starlight interact and bounce off each other as they grew.
Wink. Why do you keep saying wink? I'm not saying wink. Wink.
Twilight explains that she knew how to deal with the Ursa because of the book she was reading when Spike came to get her. Turns out it was an Ursa Minor, the baby of the Ursa Major. Spike asks what an Ursa Major is like if its baby is so bad, and understandably, Twilight decides not to tell.
That's big. That's really big.
You don't want to know.
Trixie puffs herself up one last time before fleeing town, and Twilight metes out punishment for Snips and Snails, as well as a little makeover.
For starters, you can clean up this mess. And, what do you think, Spike? Should I give them number 25?
Oh, 25, yes. And I think I deserve it too. Huh?
I think you're right.
Sweet!
This episode is one that fans point to after viewing the later episode It Isn't the Main Thing About You, where Twilight and Starlight claim you can't just grow or create hair out of nothing with magic, though it's not entirely clear whether or not the hair here is real. Spike just calls the trick growing magic, and aside from that, Spike doesn't have hair to grow. So either the spell creates hair follicles to grow from, or the hair is fake and just sprouts where Twilight wants it and in what shape she wants it. On the other hoof, it's best to take anything from the first season with a grain of salt, as they didn't exactly have continuity in mind for such a long haul as 9 seasons at the time. So Twilight and Starlight can't grow hair in the 8th season because...
Because shut up.
Yeah, pretty much. Twilight writes her letter to the princess and explains how she discovered her friend's feelings towards her abilities. Spike comes in with his mustache, saying Rarity didn't go for it and asks for something more complex as the scene fades to the credits.
Maybe the mustache wasn't enough. Maybe if I had a mustache and a beard.
Oh, not this again.
Okay, imagine me with a nice long Fu Manchu type beard. Or maybe a goatee. Oh, no, a soul patch.
This was a decent episode, especially in how they framed Twilight's insecurity over her friend's reactions to Trixie. I'm sure more than a few socially awkward fans watching the episode empathized. I know I did. I've always had a hard time with interactions like this, and I'm glad to see it portrayed so realistically in a show meant for young children. It's an important lesson for kids to learn that it's not a bad thing to show and be proud of your talents, just as long as you're not shoving everything in other people's faces. That's a lesson too few people learn. Until next episode, this is Fauna Joy taking off the hat for now. Fail at the first fucking try. Greetings! And I know that's not good. The great and powerful Trixie! And I completely wrecked that. How many takes is this going to take? Spike exposits that Either way, I'm curious as to what else is on the list. Too bad the equestrian written language. A crowd's already gathered and the rest of the gang is there. Spike tries once again to intervene. Spike tries once again to intervene on Twilight's behalf, but she cuts off. Good grief! I don't want to know what that was going to finish as. Up on stage, Trixie's heard some of the murmurs in the crowd and puffs herself up a little more. Spike tries once more to. Good grief! When Trixie tries to, she does set it up. She doesn't try to. She succeeds. Not one thing in the city says cheap, as some places in Las Vegas sometimes do, especially where amateur magicians are. Even when we're shown Las Pegasus later on, it's filled with highly professional architecture, lighting, and advertising. Not one thing in the city says cheap, as some places in Las Vegas sometimes do, especially where amateur Snips and Snails continue to proclaim Prixies? Huh, I wonder what number that trick was. The crowd's still not convinced of Trixie's praise. Good grief. Huh, I wonder what number that trick was. The crowd's still not convinced of Trixie's greatness, though good grief. Huh, I wonder what number that trick was. The crowd's still not convinced of Trixie's greatness, though the crits... Oh, good grief. So Trixie is... Oh, good grief. I finally got past the crickets, and then I can't finish the line. Huh, I wonder what number that trick was. The crowd's still not convinced of Trixie's greatness, though the crickets seem to be... Oh, come on. Snips... Nope, that's the wrong line. The crowd's still not convinced of Trixie's greatness, though the crickets seem to be... For fuck's sake. Though the crickets seem to be singing her praises, so Trixie issues a challenge. Finally. Oh, no, wait, it was just a commercial break. She actually picked Applejack. Of course, Trixie declares herself the winner, but why are the other ponies just going along with it? She isn't Spike tries to convince her otherwise, but she conjures a jor? Spike tries to talk to Twilight once more over her refusal to... Spike tries to talk to Twilight once more over her refusal... Good grief. The Colts wake Trixie, who's about... Almost. Trixie starts trying to use her magic to fight the Ursa, but Twilight's surprised that they're What? What was I trying to say there? Twilight's surprised that they're reacting so positively, and they clarify that why they were No, that was not the line. Spike asks what an Ursa Major is like, and if... Almost. So close. So either the spell creates hair follicles to glow... This was a decent episode, especially in how they framed Twilight's insecurity over her friend's reaction to Trixie. I'm sure more than a few socially awkward fans you don't wash an episode. How would you wash an episode? Maybe you had the physical film, but we don't use film anymore. It's all digital. This was made in Flash Player. I don't know why I'm talking so much. Bye-bye.